Tara, so swift and courageous, Mother who banishes fear with Totara. With Ture you meet all our needs and our wishes. With Svaha, great Mother, we bow down before you. Homage to Tara, so swift and courageous, your eyes flash like lightning, so quick and all-seeing. Born from the tears of the Lord of Trilyoka, at the heart of a beautiful lotus in blossom. Homage to Tara, whose smile is as radiant as 100 million full autumnal moons, ablaze with the light of the stars in their thousands. You shine with the transcendent light of perfection. Homage to Tara, our golden-skinned mother, adorning your hand is an azure blue lotus, kind, open-handed, hard-working and patient, and one with the state of samadhi perfected. Homage to Tara, whose victories are endless, the crown on the heads of the Tathagatas, praised by the masters of all the perfections. All bodhisattvas rely on your guidance. Homage to Tara, our spellbinding mother, you create all of space with your hung and tutare. All beings you magnetize without exception, and trample the seven worlds under your feet. Homage to Tara, whom all the gods worship, Indra, Marutagni, Shiva and Brahma, praised by the demons who harm and assail us, ghost spirits, zombies, Gandharvas and
behind me is the mountains.
Homage to Tara, who crushes black magic, with Trey and with Pei you destroy harmful forces. You dance right knee bent
Very
and
nice.
the left leg extended, all magic consumed in a blazing inferno. Homage to Tara, whose spine-chilling Ture vanquishes even the powerful Mara. Wrinkling her beautiful brow in fierce anger, she crushes all foes and destroys them completely. Homage to Tara, the radiant lady, you form at your heart the three rare and supreme. Mother, whose radiance fills all directions with brilliant light that bedazzles all thinking. Homage to Tara, whose sparkling tiara shines with the light of her limitless joy. Your laughter and tutare topple all demons, subduing all worlds with exultant delight. Homage to Tara, the mother who summons all the world's leaders with hung and a frown. You free us from hardship, from need and misfortune, from homelessness, poverty, hunger and thirst. Homage to Tara, whose bright shining tiara is graced with a brilliant crescent new moon. Sitting amidst your thick mane of black tresses is Lord Amitabha, irradiant with light. Homage to Tara, encircled by fire, infernos of flames like the end of all time. Truth's enemies and their great armies you vanquish, and spin right leg stretched with your left leg drawn in. Homage to Tara, who strikes the earth's surface. You pound with your palms and you stamp with your feet. With hung and a glowering scowl, all your anger shatters the underworld's layers, all seven. Homage to Tara, the one who is blissful. You are liberation, your province is peace. With Om and with Svaha so perfectly rendered, you lay waste to all the worst evils and suffering.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's teaching. My name is Chet, and I'll be our MC for today. Simultaneous translations are available on Zoom. And to activate the interpretation later on, please click on the globe icon that you'll be able to see when it's been activated at the bottom right of your Zoom screen for those of you who are on Zoom. And you'll be able to see the languages that are available. But first, let me introduce you to your interpreters. Bella in Mandarin.
需要中文翻译的法友，请待会开放翻译室之后，点击下方的地球，选取中文就可以收聽。
Jacqueline in Cantonese.
大家好，如果想今日聽粵語嘅翻譯嘅話咧，請點擊你嘅 Zoom 下底地球選擇粵語。
Olivia in French.
Des traductions simultanées sont disponibles sur Zoom. Pour activer la traduction par la suite, veuillez cliquer sur l'icône représentant un globe intitulé Interprétation et sélectionner la langue de votre choix.
Kiko in Japanese.
Zoom で参加している方は、通訳を通して聞くこともできます。後ほど画面の右下に通訳のアイコンが出ますので、それをクリックして聞きたい言語を選んでください。
Luciano in Portuguese.
Boa noite, a tradução vai estar disponível em português e outras línguas. Assim que o ícone estiver ativado, você pode escolher a sua língua de preferência para a tradução simultânea.
Tina in Russian.
Добрый день. Я надеюсь, что все меня слышат. Вы можете выбрать необходимый язык для перевода в окне в нижней панели. Всем добрый день.
Last but not least, Sarah in Spanish.
Hola a todos. Habrá traducciones simultáneas disponibles en Zoom. Para activar la interpretación, hacer clic en el icono de globo terráqueo etiquetado como interpretación de idiomas y seleccione su idioma de elección. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, everybody who's here joining us. Just a few more moments and we'll be beginning. So, very warm welcome again for those of you who's joined us in today's teaching. My name is Chet and I'm our MC for today. I just earlier mentioned that simultaneous translations are available on Zoom. In a few moments, you'll be able to see the globe icon appear at the bottom right of your Zoom screen for those of you who are joining us from Zoom and be able to select the language of your choice. We'll be opening the interpretation room now. So thank you for your patience and look out for that globe icon that will be appearing very, very soon. 我们现在将开放翻译室，请稍等，谢谢。Great. I think our interpretation rooms are now open. So you can go ahead and select your language of choice. And before we begin, we'd like to inform you that your questions are so very welcome. So you can go ahead and pop them into the Q&A box if you are joining us from Zoom, and if you're joining us on YouTube, go ahead and put your questions as they emerge in the chat box in YouTube. So also, just if you should be experiencing any technical difficulties, please do reach out to the technical support, and we'll try to help you out as soon as we can. So today's teaching is Vipassana Sadhana, and Sadhana means practice. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand the space over to Rinpoche. Over to you, Rinpoche.
First of all, greetings to everyone. And also like to wish series of Happy New Year. I think one is about to come. When this teaching was requested, originally I thought of talking about the Vipassana. What else? That's the one thing that is being taught over and over. And also it is probably one of the unique technique, unique to Buddhism, I mean. I guess part of me also wants to do this because there's all kinds of mindfulness exercise that is mushrooming up from all parts of the world. And as a Buddhist, I have this concern that the very idea and the essence of Vipassana could get lost in trying to make it accessible. Sometimes we pour too much water and then we lose the essential taste. Then I added the sadhana just as probably it's a bit of a teasing, because sadhana is a very Mahayana. In fact, it's a very tantric term. The term sadhana, I think, is used both by Buddhist Tantra, and also it is very much found in the Hindu Tantra. I decided to tie this up together because the quintessence, sort of the core if you like, backbone or the blood or the element of sadhana is none other than Vipassana. Although many times, because the nature of the sadhana, especially at times, appear to be very religious, involving ceremonies, involving things like simple mundane things like offering flowers, incense, or even sitting on a dead body and meditating days and nights. And so the sadhana can and has appeared as a ritual. And sometimes that, because of that, the essential point of the sadhana, especially in Buddhism, the Vipassana gets lost. So this is why I sort of just want to tease ourselves and remind ourselves that sadhana and the Vipassana really has to come together. So hopefully we can come to this later. But let us first talk about the Vipassana. Vipassana is really, really vast. It's infinite. Of course, now it is sort of coming down to this Buddhist practice of sitting straight. Being mindful of, I don't know, environment, surroundings, breath, and then some more advanced level of technique. So for a lot of the people, I think Vipassana is something to do with meditation, as in sitting. And I think this is depriving the whole world of Vipassana. So hopefully, hopefully this time we can sort of open our eyes, open our mind, and approach Vipassana in a much more sort of abundant and infinite way. As the word Vipassana indicates, it is something to do with seeing, having the insight. Let me try to explain this in a more mundane, day-to-day level. This is what the Buddhists think. In our day-to-day life, when we interact with our life, usually we always have a one or two narrow angle. We just never have a bird's eyes view. So in this case, so in this sense, you are always having a very distorted, partial, biased, with a lot of prejudice. So you always, you don't have the full picture. In many ways, you can actually, to make us understand the Vipassana, depth of Vipassana, I think we could translate the Vipassana as a technique to see the world and our life, but full picture, not just partially. Full picture. Also, the idea of Vipassana has something to do with direct experience. Usually when we interact with life, and I'm talking about every aspect of life, let's say the most important part of our life, what is it? It's me, self, I. When we interact with me, like this man, or whoever, we interact with some we interact using all kinds of rational thinking, logic, rational, probably science, and of course, a bit of an empirical or experience. So when we look at ourselves through reason, through logic, through, I don't know, through language, through culture, we are never really experiencing ourselves directly. So for instance, like, you know, I'm a man. This gender, man, the decision, conclusion that I'm a man has come, you know, I've come to this conclusion that I'm a man based on all kinds of reasons, such as the consensus says so. Others think that I'm a man. My parents raised me as a man. And then biologically, I'm a man. So, you know, there is never a direct experience. So Vipassana also, if you want to translate Vipassana in another way, it is also, you can translate this as a technique to experience life directly. Okay, so Vipassana, how to view life, not just life, everything. How to view things with full picture, not just partial picture, or how to look at life directly without using any kinds of references. This is probably one good way to understand what Vipassana is. And I think if we can build that foundation, Vipassana is not just watching, you know, breathing in and out. Vipassana is so much. It's really, really, it's even more than a science. It's a direct experience. Now, with that in mind, since part of our conversation is about sadhana. Sadhana basically means it's a skill, it's a technique, it is a trick, actually. It's a trick, it's a technique, it's a means to, you know, there's usually a goal. Sadhana always has a goal. So the sadhana is a systematic means to achieve whatever the goal. So in the Vipassana context, the goal is to have a direct experience, full picture. Okay, even me looking at this flower that is in front of me, am I really having a direct experience with this flower? Why I even consider this as a flower? See, I have a cultural, you know, I've been taught that this is a flower. And then I don't even know the name of this flower. Then, you know, this is a pink flower. So on and so forth. So I don't have the direct experience. There's already a prejudice. There's already my view of this flower comes through lots of, you know, filter, lots of interference. So if we are looking at this, looking at the Vipassana as with this definition, then actually, what do we mean by practicing Vipassana? You know, Vipassana or Sadhana, right? So what do we mean by practicing Vipassana? That could mean a lot of things. That could mean even discussing about Vipassana as it is happening right now between you and me. We are talking about real picture, the full picture. We are questioning. Are we seeing things just partially? Are we seeing things through distorted, already conditioned mind? We are already questioning this. This kind of analysis, this kind of critical thinking, you could actually say that this is already a Vipassana practice in progress. In fact, many sutras and the shastras, especially the great scholars, have explained this. But I just want to tell you this because nowadays, a lot of people, when they say, I'm practicing Vipassana, it's usually something to do with the sitting, something to do with like sitting straight and watching breathing or your sensation of your body and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that this is not correct. It is correct. It is very much that, but it is also much more than that. In fact, even longing to see the truth, longing to see the full picture of life is already sort of, you could almost say, is the beginning of practice or the sadhana of the Vipassana, longing to have the full picture. Now, who doesn't want to have the full picture? Everybody does. But, you know, in one way, now this is the schizophrenia aspect of us human beings. There's a part of us, we like to have the full picture. There's a part of us, we want to control everything, especially control our own surrounding, others, if you can. There's a part of us who don't want to be left out, missing out. There's a part of us that wants to, I don't know, have the direct experience. From a small child all the way to the adults, we have that. In fact, most of our insecurity, most of our anxiety comes from this not knowing whether I have the full picture or not. Do I have the full picture of our life? Do I have the full picture of myself? Do I have the full picture of this flower? Whatever. And I mean, more importantly, do I have the full picture of some sort of a discursive thought that is happening right this very moment? Now that is the highest level of thinking, isn't it? That should be considered as a, you know, quest or the path or the sadhana of Vipassana. Okay, now Vipassana has a lot of challenge. There's a big challenge here. And the challenge is the opposite of Vipassana. You know, Vipassana, seeing the truth, seeing the real deal, seeing things as what they are. Challenge for that is this habit this habitual pattern that we have, which is just feeling comfortable and being cozy with seeing not the real thing. This is a problem, and this is a really, really big problem. We are comfortable. We don't want to dig too much. Vipassana is really like a digging machine. You dig, and then when you see the whole picture, you know, we have developed this habit of not wanting to see the whole picture. We are too afraid to see the whole picture. We are kind of happy to see sort of one side. That's how the world works. So if you are looking at our sort of human society, education system, political system, I don't know, everything, business, fashion, food, it's all about sufficing with partial truth. The partial truth, somehow we have developed this sort of feeling comfortable with this zone of partial truth. And this is a challenge. This is a challenge for the Vipassana practitioner. But you see, the partial, you know, living life, looking at a partial truth, never really pays off. At the end, because you have been looking at a partial truth, it always leads us to some sort of a disappointment. It always leads us to some sort of anxiety. And then we try to see the real truth. But then the old habit of wanting to go to the, you know, camouflage zone, the comfortable zone, the comfort zone, now that is strong. So this is a Vipassana's biggest challenge. And what it does is it makes you see this zone, this comfort zone makes you not, okay, so this comfort zone makes your mind rigid. This comfort zone makes your mind not malleable. This comfort zone actually makes your mind out of control, basically. So this is why when we talk about a Vipassana, many great masters from all the tradition, Theravada, Mahayana, and the Vajrayana, talks about shamatha, which is basically to make the mind malleable, make the mind workable, to sort of battle with this, you know, constant falling to this comfort zone. We apply the shamatha technique. Now that is probably what a lot of people nowadays may be doing. And then they think that this is a Vipassana. This is possible. I mean, I cannot really discourage doing that. But at one point, it is important that we realize that a shamatha is really meant to make your mind workable, malleable, so that you will be in control. In other words, you will not fall into that comfort zone that I was talking, so that your longing to see the truth, that you are longing to see the full picture, you are longing to have the direct experience, gets unwavered, unfaltered, and uncorrupted. So this is why the shamatha and the vipassana are always sort of complementary. Okay, so this is just a sort of an overall, how should I say, summary of so-called vipassana along with the sadhana. But since I'm assuming that there are a lot of participants today here around the world who are also for the first time probably, or maybe new to this whole Buddhist, I don't know, path in general, and especially Vipassana. I'm now going to talk about the Vipassana, and I'll try to sort of use less traditional jargon and try to, what do you call it, connect this with our day-to-day life, so to speak. Be it, you know, whether you're a monk or a nun, or whether you're a householder, or whether you are children, teenagers, how and why Vipassana and the shamatha is relevant to you as a human being, and how you relate, how this could help relating to the world. Okay. Now, so what do we have in so-called life? Job, family, relationship, security, fun, very important. Long-term planning, management, managing one's own life, managing, I don't know, family, managing your own, I don't know, life ahead. So this is, I guess, this is what we have as a life. And there is not much chance for us to think about these things originally without the influence of others. that's almost non-existent. If you are a kid, if you're a teenager, there's probably your parents hovering around you, breathing down on your neck. Well, if you don't have parents, there's your peers, you know, your friends and, you know, schoolmates, and you will want to be part of them. You'll want to fit in. I don't know, get invited to their circle, parties. And it's very complicated. You know, you want to be special, I guess. And you want to be unique. But at the same time, you don't want too much attention from people. It's really complicated. Because if there's too much attention, you feel suffocated. But then if you're too unique, you get alienated because you're too unique and you are too, I don't know, strange, they will think. And because of that, you get alienated. Then probably you will suffer with the loneliness. And then with all the things that's happening with, I mean, social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. I don't even know these things so much, but I mean, when I was growing up, I have a challenge to fit in with a real human friends. Nowadays, most of the kids, you have to fit in with the friends that you have never met and you probably will never meet. And all they have to do is a thumbs down, and then you will go depressed for days and days. And this is the life that you have, we have. And I don't think it's going to get better. I don't know, maybe it is already good. I don't want to judge that this is bad, but I also don't want to, I don't also see that these are very good, because there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress. And then the world is designed, the whole world is designed based on this idea of competition, the winner, the loser, who gets the most marks, who wins the best prize, I don't know, acknowledgement, endorsement. So that's there, this is there now. Now, if you buy into all this, then you will be not having Vipassana, which means, you remember, Vipassana in Sanskrit means seeing the whole picture, or seeing the truth, or seeing directly. When you see your world through TikTok, through Instagram, through fashion, through family, I don't know, endorsement, through, I don't know, marks in the school, then you are not looking at the life directly. You are looking at your life through a lot of distorted lens, and through the lens that is not even sort of belong to you, through the lens that is designed by others. So, yes, as I was saying earlier, a lot of us, we want to be very unique, we want to be independent, which is, this is another thing, independent, want to be independent. quest for independence, wanting to be independent, how much of that is a Vipassana? See, we want to be independent, but everything we do is just the opposite. Everything we do actually makes us so dependent. I mean, used to be, we do things quite, things that makes us dependent. It used to take time, but nowadays, within a second, within a moment, you make yourself dependent. So basically, as many scientists seem to be saying, that our mind has been hacked. We are very much hackable. All the basically so many companies, so many tech giants, they know what I buy, what I read, what I watch. And they have already curated and sent me messages, news bulletins, carefully crafted and curated for me. And I totally fall, even though I know that this has been curated for me. This is how should I say, this is how we lose the insight. We then lose insight, we lose the true nature of reality. We we have a partial picture of our life. But as I said earlier, how much enthusiasm or how much zest do you have to go out of that comfort zone? How much courage do you have to really not care, or at least care less about what others think? How much ratings you gain, how much thumbs up you get. This is what you need to contemplate, and contemplation of that is what in Sanskrit called bhavana, which means mind training. And this is very relevant, so relevant for those who wish to just have a life, those who are parenting, those who are managing, those who are having a relationship, those who are, I don't know, those who wish to communicate with others. In every aspect of our life, we need Vipassana. So in the classic Buddhist, category of Vipassana, we talk about three characteristics, especially in the Theravada tradition. Impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the selflessness or no self. So impermanence, again, this can be applied very much when you are going through your life. As a teenager, as parents, as, I don't know, as someone who has, who have business to run, or job to sort of look after, or family. Looking at our life with a bigger picture, with a bigger picture of impermanence. It doesn't have to be. Again, the word impermanence may sometimes indicate something negative or something unpleasant, but it doesn't have to be. For instance, like you could be going through hardest of the time in your life, but because, and when you have the hard time, when you are going through a rough time right now, because you don't have the, you have the habit of looking at the life partially, a small amount of rough time can discourage you, throw you off, make you lose your hope, make you lose your direction. And it doesn't have to be. If you can develop the Vipassana, in other words, if you can look at the life with a bird's eye view, how many times in our life unpleasant thing has happened, but we have always somehow managed to walk out of it. Things, how many times we have in our life, things have improved. How many times, good news, good things has happened in our life. Of course, there's a tendency that we don't appreciate things, good things, and we tend to hang on or cling on to things that are unpleasant. But if you can look at our life with the bird's eye view of just the anicca, impermanence, really, it can give you so much confidence on managing this life. Just seeing that truth, the truth of anicca, truth of impermanence. So much confidence and courage, so much, and also visionary, and also not giving up. But of course, as I keep on repeating, these things need to be, you need to get accustomed you need to be accustomed to this kind of thinking. And this is where the sadhana, a technique to get used to this truth, get used to this discipline. Keep this discipline during the bad times, good times, so that the technique become you and you become technique. So that when the calamities hit you, you apply this knowledge, this wisdom, this mindfulness, this picture, the full picture immediately. That bhavana, or the mind training, is necessary. And of course, now just to go back a little bit on the more sort of on the traditional approach, you know, a sadhana such as sitting straight, watching the breath in and out, or sadhana, or the practice technique of going to temples. And actually, if we go to temple, for instance, with a flower in the hand, incense, and with the motivation of wanting to see the truth, wanting to have the full picture of our life, wanting to not just stuck with a partial view of life. Visit to the temple can be considered as a practice of vipassana. In this case, the visit to a temple or a bodhi tree or a stupa is a sadhana. It has become a sadhana. Of course, you know, in a traditional Buddhist societies, farmers go to temple, Buddha's temple, for some other, you know, with other, you know, like for the protection, for the, you know, rain, for good harvest, for good business, for longevity, for, I don't know, for protection from sickness and so on and so forth. But, you know, those are also not discouraged in the Buddhist sutras and the shastras, because that is one skillful way of gradually leading people to the higher liberation. And the higher liberation is achieved through having the full picture. When we have the full picture, this is called liberation. When you see everything when you see things from every angle, when you know it's sort of the beginning, its end, its middle, its whole direction, you know the function, the nature, the impact of this particular thing. Whether you will continue with this thing or not is absolutely up to you, but you will not be bound by this. And this is called liberation. So in this sense, Vipassana, when you have the full maturity of this Vipassana, this is Nirvana, or liberation. So you can see that the Buddhist idea of liberation is really not far off, as sometimes we are made to think that this is something that will take like forever. Maybe we'll take a short break, since yeah, we will take a short break.
To Tara, so swift and courageous, Mother who banishes fear with Totara. With Ture you meet all our needs and our wishes. With Svaha, great Mother, we bow down before you. Homage to Tara, so swift and courageous, your eyes flash like lightning, so quick and all-seeing. Born from the tears of the Lord of Trilyoka, at the heart of a beautiful lotus in blossom. Homage to Tara, whose smile is as radiant as 100 million full autumnal moons, ablaze with the light of the stars in their thousands. You shine with the transcendent light of perfection. Homage to Tara, our golden-skinned mother, adorning your hand is an azure blue lotus, kind open hand perfected. Homage to Tara, whose victories are endless, the crown on the heads of the Tathagatas, praised by the masters of all the perfections. All bodhisattvas rely on your guidance. Homage to Tara, our spellbinding mother, you create all of space with your Hung and Tutare. All beings you magnetize without exception, and trample the 7 worlds under your feet. Homage to Tara, whom all the gods worship, Indra, Marut, Agni, Shiva, and Brahma, praised by the demons who harm and assail us, ghost spirits, zombies, Gandharvas, and Yakshas. Homage to Tara, who crushes black magic, with Trey and with Pei you destroy harmful forces. You dance right knee bent and the left leg extended, all magic consumed in a blazing inferno. Homage to Tara, whose spine-chilling Ture vanquishes even the powerful Mara. Wrinkling her beautiful brow in fierce anger, she crushes all foes and destroys them completely. Homage to Tara, the radiant lady, you form at your heart the 3 rare and supreme. Mother whose radiance fills all directions with brilliant light that bedazzles all thinking. Homage to Tara, whose sparkling tiara shines with the light of her limitless joy. Your laughter and tutare topple all demons, subduing all worlds with exultant delight. Homage to Tara, the mother who summons all the world's leaders with Hung and a frown. You free us from hardship, from need and misfortune, from homelessness, poverty, hunger and thirst. Homage to Tara, whose bright shining tiara is graced with a brilliant crescent new moon. Sitting amidst your thick mane of black tresses is Lord Amitabha, irradiant with light. Homage to Tara, encircled by fire, infernos of flames like the end of all time. Truth's enemies and their great armies you vanquish, and spin right leg stretched with your left leg drawn in. Homage to Tara, who strikes the earth's surface. You pound with your palms and you stamp with your feet. With Hung and a glowering scowl, all your anger shatters the underworld's layers, all 7. Homage to Tara, the one who is blissful. You are liberation, your province is peace. With Om and with Svaha so perfectly rendered, you lay waste to all the worst evils and sufferings. Homage to Tara, immersed in deep rapture, you shatter the bodies of all of your foes. Declaiming your 10 letters and Hung of wisdom, you liberate every suffering being. Homage to Tara, the ball dancing lady, with Ture you stomp and all obstacles perish. With Hung, Meru, Mandara and Vindaya, and the 3 worlds of existence all tremble. Homage to Tara, who holds in her white hand a moon-demarked moon like a heavenly lake. Expunging all traces of toxins and venom, you purge all the poisons with Tara Tarape. Homage to Tara, whom all the gods count on, their kings and their gods and Kimnaras all trust. Your armor of joy and contentment is splendid, it clears away nightmares and soothes away strife. Homage to Tara, whose lustrous eyes sparkle and shine with the light of the sun and full moon. Uttering Hara Hara and Tutare, you pacify all the most vicious pandemics. Homage to Tara, who with 3 Tatatas commands all the power she needs to bring peace. Supreme Ture, you are the one who annihilates the hordes of Grahas, Vetalas, and the Yakshas. 住生意，去 SPA 自我参理，经历九度宿用木，木如刹那电光照，30阶尊莲花面，从描画中现端言，经历白秋朗月暮，普遍圆满无垢面，如前行修具失去，书生微光照于彼，经历自墨金色木，妙莲花手生庄严，诗经清新柔善境，人如禅定心无尽，听力如来定寂目，催生能满无边心，得到彼岸静无语，生是佛自己所爱，经历度他而红木，深爱放松满虚空，云足遍履其世界，悉能够照射无余，经历是凡或天目，风声自在中聚集，不多其事熏香灯，主要茶中做成坛，经历护抓做佩木，与他家心即摧坏，占作卷又做足他，定记持生即明耀，经历突瑞大静木，用梦能摧圆魔雷，与莲花面作平美，摧坏一切缘家中，经历三宝眼影目，手指当心为眼相，眼视方论尽无语，自身持生光居中，经历为的幻月目，宝冠竹门中光时，随即嬉笑特他拉，真世间莫作舍夫，经历守护中地目，亦能够照诸身中，要平眉面红生子，一切衰败令度脱，经历定观月相目，观中现上妙眼光，阿弥陀佛即中现，常房中妙宝光明，经历如境界火目，安住持生定其中，不变喜悦般辅佐，能摧灭坏恶缘论，经历受安大地目，一足见他作镇压，显平眉面作红绳，能破其限真相符，经历安稳柔善目，涅槃寂灭最乐境，SPA 唵字已相应，善能消灭大灾祸，经历普遍即息目，诸愿之体令脱离，十字咒具妙言部，明咒红声长廊摇，
Okay. Now I'm going to break down even further. Traditionally, the Vipassana is approached different schools of Buddhism. I mean, in the more, let's say, Sharvakayana path, such as, I mean, what we call Sharvakayana, which is Theravada, part of is Theravada. A lot of emphasis on sitting, watching the breath, and because that has a lot of virtue. Because first of all, by sitting, you are already isolating yourself from all kinds of distractions. We call it distractions, but basically it is the comfort zone I was talking earlier. See, we always fall into these comfort zones. Comfort zone meaning the fake, partial picture, not real thing, but we are so used to it, we are comfortable there. Not all the time though. You see, that's the challenge here. You know, we feel comfortable, sort of comfortable, but then we always fall into some sort of a disappointment, some sort of anxiety, then, you know, the endless problems. But then we just don't know how to, we just don't know otherwise, so to speak. We are just so comfortable with that comfort zone. So the traditional method, not just in the Theravada, but also in the Mahayana and also in the Vajrayana, one very, very good method is sitting. I mean, beginning, and then watching the breath, watching the sensations, and so on and so forth. At the least, what it does is it isolates you from these comfort zone. And then you become more naked, so to speak. You become more clear. You become more independent, if you like. You are really looking at the life without other interference. You are really looking at the life with a full bird's eye view. So just watching the breathing in and out, it immediately, the sensations and all of that, it immediately gives you the picture of anicca, impermanence, dukkha, and then anatta. And then in the Mahayana, shunyata, or the tathagata garva, and in the Vajrayana, maybe the you know, that the experience of, you know, basically, so that's sort of, that's the traditional approach. But today what I want to say is this. I mean, by all means, I'm not saying that those are outdated. Definitely we should uphold. If you have time, if you have means, by all means do so, because those were carefully crafted and designed by great masters of the past for centuries. I always say this, there's one thing that ancient Indian or the Asian wisdom has, is that there's a, at least in Buddhism, for instance, there's a 2,500 years of experience in dealing with mind, and mind being the most important. If you don't have mind, you're basically a dead body. You're like a pebble, you're like a piece of wood. So those techniques definitely should not be discarded. But I'm afraid most of today's people, not just kids, not just teenagers, us, everyone, including me, we don't have time. We don't have time to sit, and we don't have the wish to sit. I mean, There's so many exciting things going on outside. Just the very mention of somebody, sit. That's like the last thing you want to hear. Sit. That's the most boring thing to hear. Sit for how long? 1 minute. That is like a burden. That's like, now it's just, because that's how the world has changed. The world has evolved. It has evolved so much that, I mean, nowadays people don't even read a good book, right? You know this. I mean, they don't have time to read a book from page 1 to the last page. They just want to read some headlines, some blips, some, I don't know, big font, whatever. People have no time for all the details. So because of that, I mean, I have just recently found that there's an app where you can read all the major books in like 5 minutes. Look, each book you can read in 5 minutes, essential things. So it shows people don't have time. So what does that mean? So now what? Do we have life for Vipassana? This is the question. And my argument is very much so, very much. We just, I mean, sitting, watching the breathing, doing the retreat, going to a forest, I don't know, by all means, if you have time, go to Thailand, go to Burma, go to Sri Lanka, Nepal to do these retreats. This always will help you. But if you are in a position where you don't have this kind of time, the best thing that you have is this feeling awkward and feeling, okay, empty, feeling sad. And I'm actually quoting from a sutra. This sutra says, there are 2 indispensable things that you need to perfect Vipassana. One is sadness about your whole thing, whatever you have. Little bit, not sadness is maybe not the right translation, but hey, I'm 60 years old. Is this it? Is this the only thing that is so-called life? What's the, what is it now? What's the next? The same thing again and again. And some sort of a feeling, yeah, maybe a little bit of a, or maybe even a big, sort of depression, sadness, feeling empty, or even what the German word existentialist angst. Do I even exist? Who am I? What am I doing? Feels like I'm just like an ant, just following everybody's sort of kind of a norm, right? Food, shelter. Well, at least that's sort of essential, but then so many other things. So some sort of a feeling awkward and feeling there has to be something more than this. This is a good thing. This shows some sort of a a dawn of insight. You are beginning to look at life in a much higher. You are not just copying. You are not just, I don't know. You are not. You want to be independent. this is the beginning to be independent. You are actually beginning to become independent when you're feeling a little depressed with whatever is going on. Okay, now I want to be careful here. I'm talking about a specific depression, about, like emptiness of life. Again, not the shunyata I'm talking about, like nihil, sort of very feeling nihilist, feeling sort of purposeless. I don't know. Now that is a very important element. And I think this one modern people do have. I mean, I meet a lot of modern people. Some of them are really, they have achieved so much, whatever they are supposed to achieve, or whatever they have been pushed to achieve. They have been pushed to go to school, they went. They have been pushed to go to highest Ivy League, I don't know, situations they've done. They have been pushed by family, friends to get the best job they have done. But now, they are asking, is this all we have? Now this is good. And I think this many people have, many modern people have. But what they don't have, which is what the sutra is suggesting, you need the sadness, but you need to have the wisdom. Wisdom, you see, if you don't have the wisdom, then this sadness takes over, meaningless, useless, purposeless. What's the point? Kind of total dark. I guess, like, this is the result of what do you call it? Existentialist angst. So this is where the wisdom to go beyond that is what we need. Okay. So, okay, coming back to those who, like modern people, like you, like me, I don't know whether I should even consider myself as a modern person, but people who live in this kind of situation, who don't have even a minute to sit, not just you don't have time, but you just don't even wish to do so. But you are sad, at the same time, you can sort of appreciate the wisdom of Vipassana. You can understand, anicca makes sense. Dukkha makes sense. Anatta makes sense. Shunyata makes sense. Tathagata Garbha makes sense. But of course, you don't have the discipline to, do something about it, right? Not right away. So what do we then do? So this is what I wanted to sort of break down a little bit. How should we, the young, old, family, job, I mean, people who have job, how do we get acquainted, get I don't know, live with a Vipassana world? So let's choose one element or the aspect about the life that I was talking earlier. Job, relationship. And they're all equal, actually. Every aspect of our life is so dependent on all kinds of cause and conditions. Like relationship. Wow. To have the relationship work, whatever that means. Whatever that means. It depends so much with so many cause and conditions. And the cause and conditions doesn't even have to be so big. It can be how much water is there in the coffee. If the coffee, that could trigger ups of the ups of the what relationship, or the downs of the relationship. It could. It, you know, the T-shirt that you bought, I don't know, the way you put the sofa seat, so dependent on all kinds of cause and conditions, and it is endless. You cannot fix it. It's just not, you cannot fix it. Maybe you can fix it for maybe about a week, but then again, I will not use falls apart, because fall apart sounds very negative. It's you know, that's how it is. Because it depends with the cause and condition, is revolving, is evolving all the time. And many times it is also good. It is many times the very cause that really destroyed your relationship have made your relationship even better. Maybe because of the amount of the water you have put on the coffee have made your relationship very passionate and exciting and very beautiful and romantic and sentimental, whatever, right? So we don't know, but that's how it is. So if the modern people, without sitting, without looking at the breath, because you don't, but if you can educate yourself, if you can reflect again and again, look, my relationship, my job, my not just relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but with a boss, with a colleague, with a friends, this depends so much on cause and conditions. And therefore, it can change. Change does not necessarily mean bad. It can be good, it can be bad. Tomorrow is another day. This afternoon, this evening is another day. We don't know what's in store. We really don't know what's in store. Yes, generally speaking, it has been fine, and this is very good. We should appreciate this, but you know, we don't know. It's very uncertain. Now, if you have that kind of awareness, then it's a very, 21st century's person's way of living and having a, what I would say, healthy working relationship can exist, because there is that whole, bird's eye view regarding your relationship. So there is always a room for forgiveness. There's always a room for openness. There's always a room for acceptance. And because, so I think this can be, and this I am saying is a very much a Vipassana. And you could be not sitting 1 minute, but if you can really tell yourself this, educate yourself, this, reflect, because after all, bhavana, meditation, mind training is a reflection. Telling yourself, educating yourself, influencing yourself. Modern 21st century Vipassana Sadhana. Similarly, dukkha. What does that mean? Unsatisfactoriness. Again, choose one thing in our life. I mean, anything that we regard, we put high esteem, whatever value we have, like justice. Probably that's one thing that we put such a high regard. Justice, freedom, independence. Wow. All of those are all dukkha. Like suddenly, if you have an independence, are you really going to be satisfied? You see, dukkha is something opposite of satisfaction. I'm talking about a total satisfaction. If you are totally independent, will you really be satisfied with that? Something to really think about. Because when you finally become independent, as in how we wish, right? We wish to be. And as I spoke earlier, it's very complicated because many times we want to be independent, but we want others to be dependent on us. There's a complication here. We want other people to depend on us. Oh, that's asking for trouble. So, and nobody has the guts to say, okay, you be independent, I be independent. You do your thing and I do your thing. We only say this, like on a theoretical level, but nobody gives us space. We don't give others space. And when we finally have our own space, as how we wish, does it give us full satisfaction? This is something that we need to reflect. So then if we can see life, our value through this way, what will this do is it will kill all the prejudice. Because we are looking at life and these values from all different angles. So again, even though you may not sit even for a minute in the entire 1 year, but if you can look at things that you value from all angles, and then see that they will not satisfy you 100%. I should say, sadhaka means sadhana practitioner, right? Sadhana doer. You are a Vipassana practitioner. And this is something that we modern people can do during our taxi ride, bus ride, I don't know, subway ride, while we are eating, while we are drinking. This is something that is possible to do, and we are intelligent enough to do. We are intelligent, nobody, we detest something called brainwashing, right? This is the best way to not let any circumstance or situation to brainwash you. And just having this two angle, the impermanence of everything and the unsatisfactoriness of everything, just this to view will make a big difference in our life. And I think, as you may have noticed, this is nothing religious, this is nothing mythical, this is not mystical, this is like, this is raw, if you like, science of how to live and how to look at our life. Now, third one, no self, or the selflessness for beginners, for the beginners. But of course, I mean, this anicca, dukkha, and anatta, they are actually, interconnected in a way. By understanding that everything is impermanent, you are already you are on the way to comprehending no self. By the time you know that nothing satisfies you completely, you are getting quite a big picture of anatta, no self. But having said that, the teachings on the no self, anatta, is one of the most essential teaching of the Buddha. And as I was speaking, just I think yesterday, this will become more important now than ever, I feel. And I'm going to relate this with a modern time. I think our modern people, you could sort of roughly say we are kind of much better off in a way than those who were living in the ancient time, when people were really basically needing to look for food, always the fear of somebody invading your territory, plagues, I mean, even when I was growing up, it took I think a few months for me to write a letter to my mother, because this letter takes time to reach, and then another few months to get back a reply. I don't know whether this is probably that's a good thing. And now we don't need. Now we can just talk live, Zoom, as is happening right now, everywhere, like this. I don't know whether this is a good thing, but let's say we have this kind of thing going on. So maybe I think this is very true. We, the modern people, we are going to suffer a lot with the identity crisis. Now, who are we? And this teachings on anatta, because it really is deconstruction of the dilemma of identity. The whole world, okay, so the identity crisis. So to solve this identity crisis, the whole world try to solve this identity with what? I don't know. Dye your hair. Buy designer shoes get a big degree in some universities, buy a sports car. I think this is all something to do with identity, I guess. Or have a sex change. Or even small things like speak with a squeaking kind of sound, or laugh like a horse. I don't know, people do these things to make your identity unique. Just look at us. Everything is about, identity. Like that's I think. And now with art, music, fashion, statement, right? Fashion statement. What is that for? Identity. So we are talking about identity. Like, so there is definitely a identity crisis, and to solve that, there's these remedies. And then politically, like culture, tradition, nationalism, like Chinese, Indian, Egyptian, I don't know. And then, I don't know, like a view such as democracy, socialism, identity. So when the whole world is trying to solve the identity crisis with these identities, Buddhism, on the other hand, tried to solve this identity crisis in the totally opposite way. Identity is an illusion. It's like the biggest mystery. It's like, it is a totally unfound. There is no such thing as you or me or I that truly independently exists. It is an illusion. But you cannot really discard this as an illusion and then, sort of not care about it. But because illusion is powerful. Even a scarecrow does its job, even though it does not, it's not really it's an illusion. It looks like a human, but it's not a human, but it does its job. It chases crows away. Just like that, this illusory identity that we have now, this is not an easy to tackle with, because if I pinch you, you will be in pain. If there's a thumbs up in your Instagram, you'll be happy. If there's a thumbs down, you'll be unhappy. So this identity crisis is sorted out by the Buddha with the teachings such as Anatta or the Shunyata or the Tathagata Garbha. But this one probably needs a little more, contemplation and more study and more, sort of hearing, more analysis, and you might want to put more time and energy on this. But if you can, this is a key to solve all the problem. And because of that, I just was reading a handwritten scroll of Heart Sutra. in the Prajna Paramita, in the Heart Sutra. Heart Sutra, the contents of the Heart Sutra is really, really an essential, most quintessential teachings to tackle the biggest, most vicious problem, the problem of identity crisis, the self, because that identity is the fundamental sort of culprit, if you like, of all the calamities, anxieties, suffering, delusions, confusions, and thus pain, samsara. Now, just to, give you some few more information. So Vipassana is it's a path to see the whole truth, direct truth, whole picture, inside picture, inside view, the real deal, the real truth. Okay, this is taught generally, maybe mostly in the Theravada tradition, with a teaching techniques such as 3 characteristics like anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Now, in the Mahayana, on top of these teachings are very well accepted in the Mahayana. It is very venerated, very much appreciated. But on top of that, more exclusively in the Mahayana, these teachings are approached with bodhicitta, and the relative bodhicitta with a training, or the bhavana, the training mind with wishing to enlighten all sentient beings. This is a very, very vast teaching. So the wish to enlighten sentient beings is not just some sort of a philanthropic kind of attitude. It's actually much more than that. It's, wish to enlighten sentient beings is not really wish to give everybody good health, good food. We are not talking about that, right? We are not talking about giving them some sort of a temporary gain or temporary shelter or food. We are talking about wishing to awaken to these truths. So there's that, the relative bodhicitta. And then the ultimate bodhicitta, which is also known as the shunyata. Now this Mahayana has a different approach to, it's very similar to the anatta as taught in the Theravada tradition, but it has a different angle, different approach. And in many ways, it can be also seen as a very daring, because from the Mahayana's point of view, not only the samsara, the dukkha, the world is an illusion, even the moksha, the liberation, the nirvana is an illusion. So in this way, Mahayana's sort of teaching is much more, it can be seen, it can be very daring, you could say. And then within the Mahayana, there is also, we have what we call Tantantriyana or the Vajrayana, which is actually Mahayana, but it has unique, daring way of looking at the truth. So, sorry, I forgot. Within the Mahayana, okay, one angle of looking at when we talk about ultimate bodhicitta, one angle is shunyata, which I just told you. Not only the samsara is shunyata, but even the nirvana is shunyata. But the other angle in the Mahayana is looking at things from the what they call tathagata garva, the point of view of Buddha nature, especially with a sentient being. All ignorant beings have the Buddha nature. That is how, remember, always go back, let's go back to the Vipassana. Vipassana being the, how you view things with a full picture. So one angle of the Mahayana's teaching is looking at the whole thing or sentient beings with a view that all sentient beings have the Buddha nature. So this is a unique angle, unique Vipassana actually. Then with the Vajrayana, very similar, but if sentient beings already have, if sentient beings, if their nature is the Buddha, then why not already interact with them as the Buddha? One example that I'm always giving is this. Like if you are a goldsmith and then you are given a gold that is not really polished and not yet, it's not shiny, it's just a rock, but you are given a kilo of gold ore. It doesn't even look remotely like a gold. But if you are a goldsmith, you know this is a gold. So you will treasure it like a gold, just like a polished one. So why not already look at each other as a deity, as the Buddha, and not just look at, interact, talk, eat, dwell. And therefore, why not even look at the world that you are living as a Buddha field, so on and so forth. So this is Vajrayana's Vipassana. It's actually a Vipassana. So as I said right at the beginning, I just want to sort of inform some people that Vipassana is very vast. In fact, Vipassana is what is the most unique, I would say. If you take out Vipassana, just the shamatha, you will find this in many different traditions in India. But Vipassana is very, very unique. And then within the Vajrayana, there are, traditions such as Mahamudra, Mahasandhi. They are basically the epitome or the most refined path of the Vipassana. So with this, I would sort of consider kind of roughly, I would consider that this is end of what I have to say, and I'm happy to hear some questions if you have regarding, I don't know, Vipassana, shamatha. Is that good?
Yes, hi. There have been quite many questions that have been streaming in from Zoom and from YouTube. So thank you for your teaching, Rinpoche, thus far. Let me start with one of the questions that's come in from ZH from China, who asks how to arise the bodhicitta that can benefit all beings.
How to arise. I think there's many ways to do that. I'll come from the best first, from the top down. I think the best one is by having this awareness that all sentient beings have the Buddha nature. You know, I just was talking about the gold and the gold ore. So if a practitioner look at sentient beings as raw material of the Buddha, so to speak, then you have that courage and the bravery and the openness to rise the bodhicitta. Probably this is the best one, but of course, not all of us have that kind of openness to see all sentient beings have as a raw material of the Buddha, you know. Then I would say, thinking that all sentient beings are connected to us one way or another. Traditionally, we say that all sentient beings have been our mother billions and billions of times. And when they were connected to us, they have sacrificed, suffered, gone through so much pain to protect us, to feed us, to nurture us. So just as how we feel very close and concerned with our own present family and friends, we develop this kind of, what do you call it? I guess beginning with maybe some ordinary sympathy, empathy, and then slowly generate the Buddhist, vast Buddhist compassion as it is taught by the, you know, like Chandrakirti, for instance. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Rinpoche. Here's another one. This one's from Veronica Amiante. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, who asks, how to practice if thoughts are coming nonstop? It's so frustrating, this stubborn mind that refuses to be tamed. How would you advise, Rinpoche? So I repeat the question. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you repeat?
Sure. So the question is how to practice if thoughts are coming nonstop. It's so frustrating, the stubborn mind that refuses to be tamed. Does Rinpoche have any advice?
How to practice non-stop?
Because the thoughts are coming nonstop. Can you hear me? The
Wait.
thoughts are coming nonstop.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, this is quite an advanced question, actually. Okay, and this is a classic advice from all tradition. One should not look at the thoughts as an enemy. One should not have animosity towards the thoughts. let the thoughts come. You need to slowly train yourself so that the thoughts will not entangle you. It's impossible to stop the thoughts, and it's not necessary, and it's fruitless. In fact, one tantric master has said that trying to stop thoughts is like building. If you try to stop water with water, then more it becomes bigger water. So it's impossible. So do not try to stop thoughts. I know many times the way the meditation instructors instruct, sometimes we hear it like, oh, be free from all sorts of thoughts. Sort of these kind of instructions can mislead us by thinking that you need to empty out thoughts. Actually, the Vipassana does not talk about emptying out thoughts at all. Maybe in the shamatha technique, you are supposed to choose one object, such as breathing or whatever, an object, and then only think about that when you first train. But that actually is a trick, by the way. We know very well that no human beings can actually look at one thing for more than, I don't know, especially in the beginning, more than a moment or two. But we still insist you look at this object, and every time your thoughts here and there, you come back to this. This is a trick because this is your mind goes out. You understand? So this is it's a trick, and it's important. So sometimes maybe when you hear these things, then you may think that maybe what we need to do is sort of empty the thoughts, but that's not the case. Okay.
Okay. There is our friend Blue Lion from China who asks, I haven't received instruction on shamatha yet. Can I only practice Vipassana?
Theoretically, yes, but as I said earlier, that temptation to dwell in the comfort zone is so strong, and we just get so distracted, and because of that, chances to remain in the Vipassana is quite slim. So masters have advised us to actually do the shamatha at least a little bit, because what it does is it makes your mind malleable. But as I said, theoretically, there are definitely, there are tradition that teaches Vipassana first and then shamatha later. But most of the masters that I have been reading or heard from, such as Shantadeva, for instance, he said famously that if you want to gain victory from emotional entanglement, what you need is Vipassana. And to have the Vipassana, you need to have ground of shamatha. And to develop this shamatha, you need to watch out, so to speak, watch out to this constant clinging to the worldly life. Okay.
Okay. So here's a question from Yeshi Hagen. How does seeing the full truth result in becoming free from suffering? Sometimes when we glimpse a bit of truth, it brings so much suffering. When we glimpse the reality of the world, how does wisdom cause us to no longer suffer?
Okay. Yeah. I think here I don't know, this is maybe I'm not getting the question correct, but there seem to be this the question does seem to have this idea that Vipassana and seeing the truth, when we use the word dispel the suffering, probably the word dispel is maybe misleading a little bit. Maybe it is making some of us think that this will somehow sort of by the power, I don't know, we have to be kind of careful here. It's okay, so it's a bit like this. So in the dream, okay, let's say you have a nightmare, and because of this nightmare you are suffering a lot, and you suffer more if you don't know this is a dream, because you think it's real, because it's happening. But the moment you have the vipassana of the dream, which means you think, oh no, this can't be happening, I must be dreaming while you are having the nightmare, immediately you are released, even though it doesn't mean that the order of the dream will stop. Order of the dream, the show of the dream, the consequence, sort of the episode of the bother you anymore. So I think this is how we need to understand when we talk about dispelling the suffering. Okay, we will take a break maybe for 10 minutes again, and then meanwhile you can arrange the questions.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Homage to Tara, so swift and courageous, Mother who banishes fear with Totara. With Ture you meet all our needs and our wishes. With Svaha, great Mother, we bow down before you. Homage to Tara, so swift and courageous, your eyes flash like lightning, so quick and all-seeing. Born from the tears of the Lord of Trilyoka, at the heart of a beautiful lotus in blossom. Homage to Tara, whose smile is as radiant as 100 million full autumn moons, ablaze with the light of the stars in their thousands. You shine with the transcendent light of perfection. Homage to Tara, our golden-skinned mother, adorning your hand is an azure blue lotus, kind, open-handed, hard-working and patient, and one with the state of samadhi perfected. Homage to Tara, whose victories are endless, the crown on the heads of the Tathagatas, praised by the masters of all the perfections. All bodhisattvas rely on your guidance. Homage to Tara, our spellbinding mother, you create all of space with your hung and tutare. All beings you magnetize without exception, and trample the seven worlds under your feet. Homage to Tara, whom all the gods worship, Indra, Marut, Agni, Shiva, and Brahma, praised by the demons who harm and assail us, ghost spirits, zombies, Gandharvas, and Yakshas. Homage to Tara, who crushes black magic, with Trey and with Pei you destroy harmful forces, you dance right knee bent and the left leg extended, all magic consumed in a blazing inferno. Homage to Tara, whose spine-chilling Ture vanquishes even the powerful Mara, wrinkling her beautiful brow in fierce anger, she crushes all foes and destroys them completely. Homage to Tara, the radiant lady, you form at your heart the three rare and supreme, Mother whose radiance fills all directions with brilliant light that bedazzles all thinking. Homage to Tara, whose sparkling tiara shines with the light of her limitless joy. Your laughter and tutari topple all demons, subduing all worlds with exultant delight. Homage to Tara, the mother who summons all the world's leaders with hung and a frown. You free us from hardship, from need and misfortune, from homelessness, poverty, hunger and thirst. Homage to Tara, whose bright shining tiara is graced with a brilliant crescent new moon. Sitting amidst your thick mane of black tresses is Lord Amitabha, irradiant with light. Homage to Tara, encircled by fire, infernos of flames like the end of all time. Truth's enemies and their great armies you vanquish, and spin right leg stretched with your left leg drawn in. Homage to Tara, who strikes the earth's surface, you pound with your palms and you stamp with your feet. With hung and a glowering scowl all your anger shatters the underworld's layers all seven. Homage to Tara, the one who is blissful, you are liberation, your province is peace. With Om and with Svaha so perfectly rendered, you lay waste to all the worst evils and sufferings. Homage to Tara, immersed in deep rapture, you shatter the bodies of all of your foes. Declaiming your 10 letters and hung of wisdom, you liberate every suffering being. Homage to Tara, the ball dancing lady, with Ture you stomp and all obstacles perish, with Hongman, Meru, Mandara and Vindaya, and the three worlds of existence all tremble. Homage to Tara, who holds in her white hand a moon-demarked moon like a heavenly lake, expunging all traces of toxins and venom, you purge all the poisons with Tara Tarape. Homage to Tara, whom all the gods count on, their kings and their gods and Kimnaras all trust. Your armor of joy and contentment is splendid, it clears away nightmares and soothes away strife. Homage to Tara, whose lustrous eyes sparkle and shine with the light of the sun and full moon. Uttering Hara Hara and Tutare, you pacify all the most vicious pandemics. Homage to Tara, who with 3 Tatatas commands all the power she needs to bring peace. Supreme Ture, you are the one who annihilates the hordes of Grahas, Vetalas, and the Yakshas.
听力如来定寂寞。
所爱，经历都达拉红木，深爱放所满虚空，云足遍履其世界，悉能够照射无余，经历是凡或天目，风声自在中聚集，不多其事熏香灯，主要茶中做成坛，经历互抓做配木，与他家心即摧坏，占作卷又做足他，定记取生即民谣，经历突瑞大经目，用梦能摧月魔雷，欲莲花面作品美，摧坏一切缘家中，经历三宝眼影目，手指当心为眼相，眼识方论尽无语，自身持生光居中，经历为的幻月目，宝冠竹满中光时，最极细小特塔拉，真世间莫作舍夫，经历守护中地目，亦能够照诸身中，要凭眉面红生子，一切衰败令度脱，经历定观月相目，观中现上妙眼光，阿弥陀佛即中现，常房中妙宝光明，经历如境界火目，安住持生定其中，不变喜悦般辅佐，能摧灭坏恶缘论，经历受安大地目，一足见他作镇压，先凭眉面作红绳，能破其限真相符，经历安温柔善目，涅槃寂灭罪乐尽，swaha唵字已相应，善能消灭大灾祸，经历普遍即细目，诸愿之体令脱离，十字周具妙言部，明周红生长廊腰，经历突瑞巴地目，奏涅相续红字中，须弥曼陀及并陀，于此三处能摇动，经历萨罗天海目，手中蜘蛛身手相，松尔塔拉作配生，能灭诸毒尽无余，经历诸天即会目，天经那罗所以爱，为得幻月若见开，灭除斗争及噩梦，经历日月光圆目，目睹有生普光照，松尔哈拉特达拉，删除。
So welcome back one and all to the teaching, today's teaching on Vipassana Sadhana practice. And we're in the midst of taking in your questions and listening to Rinpoche's advice and responses to them. So keep them coming, whether you're on Zoom or on YouTube, into the Q&A box or the chat box, and we'll try to get to them as much as we can. So continuing along, here's a question from Marco, who's in Singapore. Rinpoche, could you compassionately please provide some direct tips on living with the views that all sentient beings are Buddha and all appearances as Buddha field, while we're still on the path in this modern world?
Okay, this is again very complicated, big question.
Sorry to interrupt, Rinpoche, but you're sounding a little bit far away, like you're really in the mountains a little bit.
Okay, is it better? I think so. Should be.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks.
Anyway, I was saying that this is a very big question, and this is, I guess this is a very related to the tantric teachings. So I can't really answer this properly here, I mean, short time, but I want to say something about it, which is, I think when we say seeing all as the Buddha and all the places as a Buddha field, there may be some kind of a notion that we need to somehow see everybody has a golden skin, Ushnisha, I don't know, like how the Buddha looks like on our shrine, you know, like bronze statues, and the Buddha filled with, I don't know, all the ancient imaginary pure realm with all the swimming pools and lotus pond and what else, like many the clouds and trees that talks and musical instruments and all that. And probably when people think about Buddha field, I guess that's how they think. But this is not that are very, I mean, many times, generally, all Buddhist tradition, and especially Mahayana and Vajrayana, they use a lot of symbolism. And when we use a symbol, we usually use first something that human beings can conceive and human beings can understand. Of course, you know, we don't know how to explain Buddha field to a frog, right? Or a spider. Probably the Buddha field for a spider may be, I don't know, something very, lot of webs and, but anyway, Buddha field, you know, for human beings, a Buddha field sort of has to be something good. And in our mind, a good place has to have a swimming pool. And I don't know, like musical instruments, lots and lots of food. And I guess some wild birds, peacocks. And there's a lot of that. So I just don't want you to think like that. And this is not only in the Vajrayana, even in the Mahayana, this is stated. If you have read Vimalakirti Sutra, right at the beginning, there is a interaction between some of the Buddha's disciples, such as Shariputra, who sort of made a comment about, you know, how, you know, I think it was right? I forgot now, where he doesn't see as a Buddha field. He only sees rocks and dust and so on. And Buddha said, well, that's because that's how you see. You are limited, narrow mind. But someone else can see as something different. So I think you need to understand this a little bit. Now, to come back to your main question, how to do that? There are few, again, this is very big. There are few, I think, quite important advice I could give you is, one, we need to get used to accepting that everything is our own perception. Everything. I'm not excluding anything. Everything. This is important, by the way. You know, even in our mundane world, we do say sometimes, this is your opinion. This is my opinion. This is my projection. But it's very limited usually. Actually, there's nothing that is not your opinion. There's nothing, not a single thing that is not your opinion. That's not a single thing that is not your projection. That's not your perception. Everything is. Accepting this fact is already quite a good climb towards understanding everything is a Buddha field. This we need to know. Then right now, whoever you are, you must be a human. So the one who's asking the question, I mean, so you and I, looking at this is a bottle of water, right? This bottle of water. Because we are human beings, so that's our perception. If we are fish or a frog, we have a different perception of this water. Once you can accept that, then it will create a room for you to understand why in the Tantra they say that water is actually a female, well, I guess you can, female Buddha, I guess you can say that, but Dakini, which is sun, actually, it's how, again, coming back to the Vipassana, this is the Tantric Vipassana. Tantric view about the world is like this. Their view of water is a Mamaki Dakini. Their view of fire is the, what is it, Pandaravasi Dakini. Their view about earth is a Buddha Lochani Dakini. So everything is basically Dakini. So I guess this is how you, yeah. So I think the best way, the best beginning is to really accept that everything is your own projection. This is hard, by the way. This is hard. Especially it's hard when people begin to have a common projection, like earth is round. It can't be just my projection. You know, water is wet. You will drown in the water if you don't know how to swim. That's just not my opinion. That's just not my projection. That is real, right? So we do tend to forget that. Okay. Next question, please.
So this one is from a Zoom participant who asks, could you offer some practical advice on how to apply insight in our daily lives when the world we live in runs on principles opposite to this? How do we practice seeing without making judgments of others?
I didn't get entirely what do you mean by without making judgments of others. Actually, I just want to tease you a little bit here. I think in this case, you should make judgment. You should look at the world and really see they are wrong to think that things are permanent. They are wrong to think that things actually give satisfaction. This is entirely wrong. You know, I am right to see that nothing lasts. Things change. Things are uncertain. Things are dependent on cause and conditions. Remember, even a little bit of extra water in your coffee can ruin the entire relationship. This can happen. Nothing gives us satisfaction. I think now, anyway, I think more importantly, yes, you are right. Our system, the whole net that is designed, and more so, really is the opposite of Vipassana. You are right. I mean, wow, look at just the whole idea of insurance. I mean, that is one of the greatest lies, right? I mean, who can give us insurance? That is like us, daylight lie, but we all fall for it, because it's so, they are so beautifully designed. The insurance company leaflets are just amazing. Many times it has a sun rays. It works, you know. Just imagine insurance company leaflet has some sort of a dead leaf falling. Nobody is going to go to that company. It has like sun rays coming from like behind the cloud, then it works. That's how easily manipulatable our mind is. I guess for us talking like this, time to time, I mean, even this 3 hours, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, what I have to say is very liberating. Everything what I say comes from my teachers and the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. I have no claim. Of course, I want to claim everything I've said is like originally coming from me, but I should be careful. I should not claim this, you know. And these discussion, even 3 hours of this discussion, poking hole into this picture that has been painted by the world as permanent. This will give you the satisfaction. This is it, you know, instead of anatta, this is the real deal. This is, you know, poking holes. I think it's important. It will give us some, you know, different angle. And I do not expect that if you are listening to the Vipassana first time, you will have a whole angle in one go, but at least, you know, you have been looking at the life maybe from just one angle, but maybe from today, another angle, 2 angle, 3 angle, and that's good. So this is why I was saying that even many masters have said that even discussing Vipassana, even reading about the Vipassana, one should consider this as a Vipassana Sadhana, Vipassana practice. I was trying to say that, you know, because many times when we say Vipassana practice, you immediately think in terms of sitting, being quiet, few hours, 9 days, whatever, a course, Vipassana course, right? You do it like once a year or twice a year, so good. Remember, like that, we say, which is good. I'm not stopping you to do it. But what I'm saying is that whatever, discussing like this, poking ourselves some holes, that I shall consider as a Vipassana practice. Okay.
So So this next one is, if meditation is with intention, isn't that a desire too? The desire to try to achieve something? And is it not important for the mind to purge itself of all thought and not made empty?
Oh, yes, of course. Wishing to be enlightened is a desire. Wishing to not to suffer is a desire. Wishing to, this is a desire. It's a bit like this. If you are sick, you need to take medicine. So your question is a bit like, but why take medicine, right? Because if you are taking medicine, that means you are sick. You have to have a path. You have to have a path because you have a supposedly you are to have this problem, and therefore you need actually this at the teachings of even which be rated doing we are talking I guess to believe desire.
Hi, everyone. It seems like we are experiencing some technical difficulties that's happening around the world. And we're attending to this now. Our tech team's on it. So apologies. Thank you for your patience. And we'll be back online as soon as we can. Meanwhile, please keep your questions that might be emerging coming in. And we're reviewing them, and so we can try to have them asked during this time.
Okay. What's the next question?
So next question is from Dolma. Rinpoche, when I try to watch my emotions or feelings there is someone from inside who orders myself what to think next, and another one who orders me when the thought arises and I get distracted. Do I have many minds?
I can't hear you.
Okay,
You have
let
to
me try
repeat
again.
again.
Sure. So this one is from Dolma. Rinpoche, when I try to watch my emotions or feelings, there is someone from inside who orders me what to think next, and another one who orders me when the thought arises, and then I get distracted. Do I have many minds?
Okay. Well, as long as you hear me, this is good. Okay, so the question, whether we have many minds. No, we don't. But we will always feel that we have many minds, but we don't. Okay, the next question.
Okay, so this
What
one,
happened?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this one is from a YouTube friend
I
who
can
says,
just read this.
I have cultivated for some time, but when I'm faced with some incidences, I still feel that my mind is not strong enough. I still want to return to the comfort zone. What can I do?
This is not just, I think the question is, I have cultivated for some time, but when faced with some incidents, I still feel that my mind is not strong enough. Well, this is something that you will have to go through. I think maybe, not to expect too much from yourself right away from the beginning. Dealing with the mind, bhavana, the training mind, is in one way, easy. But because the progress is sort of invisible, because it's so mental, and we are so used to judge and measure that are tangible and that are obvious, that are visible, sometimes we get impatient. So I think tendency is to get really frustrated. So even if you poke yourself with all the questions based on anicca, dukkha, anatta, shunyata, Buddha nature, even a little bit, let's say once a week, that is already doing its job, so to speak. So I think you need to really learn to, on the one hand, be satisfied with that. On the other hand, try to do more of that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Rinpoche. So
almost finished, no? If they can hear, doesn't matter.
yeah, is it okay?
Then
I'll
no
continue
problem.
with the next question. Rinpoche,
Just
is
show
it
me
okay?
that question. Okay, so the next question.
Yeah, so this one is,
How can I get rid
rid
of bad habits
of
such
bad
as switching the iPhone all the time?
Exactly.
How about take a vow that every time you look at the phone, let's say in a day, at least 10 times the phone will remind you Vipassana, at least 10 times. Then you should really try to pick up your phone as many times as possible, because there's a good chance that it will remind you. Okay.
Thank you. That's a good one. I will practice that. So this one from Jasmine, who's joining us from Zoom, with regards to past traumas, she says, and self-identification of being forever damaged by trauma and subsequent searching of fixing. How can we incorporate the method of Vipassana into our conversations to not only console and comfort such people, but to also help to push our friends to have the confidence to take the bird's eye view?
Okay. Past traumas. You know, I don't know so much about psychology. I think it is good to get help from experts who really have put so much effort in learning past trauma, childhood. Definitely, you know, they play a big role in our life. I think in the modern psychology studies, when they talk about the past trauma, childhood trauma, past trauma, they go, I think the furthest they can go is like childhood trauma with your father, with your mother, I don't know, siblings, bullies. That's it. But I think in Buddhism, past trauma goes even further, because in Buddhism, we talk about past life. So many times, the residue of the trauma or the habitual patterns that we have collected in our past life have a very important role in influencing the psychological state in this life. And that's very, very complicated. But we have noticed this. Many times we have children who are raised perfectly, perfect in the worldly, whatever, by the book. There are a lot of young parents who raise their children according to the book. They put so much effort. I know personally. They go from A to Z, whatever is supposedly prescribed or whatever. But then some, unspeakable, unthinkable psychological, since we are talking more about the psychological issues, like a lack of self-esteem, lack of confidence, or totally feeling alienated. I think, raising children, it's a very, very difficult, because this is a being. It's not really like, you don't have 100% control. Even though you try your best, this being has all the history, so to speak, cause and conditions that is not just, like early childhood, but we are talking about the past life. So they have all these amazing, unbelievable trade, unbelievable minds. I don't know, mental factor, something that even the parents don't have. This, the environment doesn't have, but they have this, and I have actually witnessed myself. A lot of children, especially as they grow up, they have this, and then plus with that, and now the 21st century world, now this is not making life easy. And you bring the children, just step out of your house, and there's all the world waiting for the child. I mean, waiting to make them, I don't know, like make them want this, need this, or get scared, or get alienated. But coming back to Vipassana, since we are talking about a Vipassana, if us parents, adults, grown-ups, if we gain some confidence in things like anicca, impermanence, uncertainty, cause and condition, nothing will really gives us complete 100% satisfaction. If we have a, not necessarily total realization, but a quite good, even on the intellectual level of comprehension, I think we will not be too hard on ourselves, because I think many parents are so afraid of sort of a failure. And this failure is sort of in reference to some books written by somebody or a society's sort of expectations, right? And again, I'm repeating this, having bird's eye view Vipassana definitely will make it little bit, I think the parents may feel more at ease, so to speak. And when the parents are maybe more at ease, it may create a very good space for the children to also, I don't know, not be too paranoid, too anxious, not to be too competitive. But yes, these are real challenges of our time. And it's not going to get better, looks like. But the good news is the information is also there, information to heal this, sort these things out. It's just that, as I've been saying right from the beginning, information on Vipassana is not there enough. There should be more of this. Okay.
So this next one is about negative thoughts. What can I do if I can't control my negative thoughts?
This is a very I think this has a lot of answers for this. And I don't know where this question is coming from. I mean, I will say this. If you think that you have lots of negative thoughts, that is already a worthy of celebration. Because that's quite difficult, you know. Most of the time we don't even know there's negative thoughts. Most of the negative thoughts that we have come and go unnoticed. And many times, even if they are negative thoughts, we think they are positive thoughts. Because we are just so used to sort of deceive ourselves. So if you have reached to a level where, I mean, if you think that these are negative thoughts, that's really good. That's actually sign of you doing some sort of a vipassana, because you know you are looking from a certain angle. Hey, this is a negative thought. Now, if that is the case, then my answer is not to be too judgmental towards this. Yes, it's a negative thought, but don't condemn yourself, don't beat yourself. Just acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. This is actually what they do during the 9 days. I hope they do that. When they when they have thoughts, what they are supposed to do is they do not beat themselves up. They just watch and watch and watch. And by doing that, it has several, actually infinite amount of benefit. One, usually when the negative thought comes, if you try to, if you condemn it, if you beat yourself, if you condemn, if you judge, then it's like recharging these negative thoughts. They want you to do that. It's like, yeah, that they want you to do that. They want you to almost condemn. But if you don't do anything, just watch, then it really drains their battery. If you are condemning yourself and if you're judging, you are charging them. So that's one. That's one, what do you call it? Impact. The other impact, if you keep on doing like that, you will see very more and more. Let's choose one negative thought, which is, let's say, anger. Let's say anger. Okay, anger is a, you know, at glance, generally, anger is something really bad. It's a hate, anger is really, but then anger comes, you watch, watch, watch. As I said, initially, battery running out. So, second stage, when the anger comes, the very character of the anger has assertiveness. Now, this is more like a tantric teaching, by the way. Assertive. Assertive or firmness, assertiveness, which is also very connected to clarity. Sort of not dull, not like sleepy. It's like very precise, very clear. Now, then you are beginning to use the so-called negative emotion, anger, into something useful. So then you are beginning to learn to recycle, so to speak, almost like recycle the garbage into something beneficial. And then there's many, many more, but I think this is good enough for now.
I've heard an expression, I've heard an expression they call transmuting the emotion. I'm thinking of that. It's a bit like what you're saying, the recycling. Okay, so this one is, I'm just aware of the time. And do we have time for this last question here, Rinpoche? As we learn to benefit other sentient beings, some feelings arise, some feelings of being scared of some sentient beings, knowing that with these arisen feelings, I cannot fully benefit other sentient beings. How can I overcome this?
I think all the more you should try to benefit sentient beings, I would say, because yes, sentient beings, many sentient beings are scared of many other sentient beings, and this is the very reason why you should be even more generate the wish to help others, and if you can, even engage in the activity of helping others. Okay, so is this the last question?
Well, I do have another one if we have time for it.
Okay.
All right. So this one, you have explained, Rinpoche, that thoughts are not our enemies. But in the enlightened state, are there thoughts? Do Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have thoughts? That's the first part. Actually, there's a second part too. Maybe I'll make a pause here to make
Okay,
it fit.
this is quite a difficult question. But anyway, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't have thoughts. Okay, just first, I want to just say that. First of all, we need to come to a mutual agreement, what we mean by thoughts, what we mean by mind. So, but I think that will take a long time. So I don't think we'll finish with this. But I think generally, when we talk about, when I, a Buddhist, when we talk about mind, when I talk about thoughts, I'm talking about duality, dualistic thoughts. All thoughts are dualistic. So dualistic thoughts have this tendency. Dualistic thoughts are a bit like a honey. You know, it has a glue. It, you know, it's kind of sweet and nice, but it, you know, it has a gluey kind of character. Wherever honey goes, so to speak, spills, it, you know, it makes you sticky with wherever it is. So thoughts are like that. Actually, okay, I have a better, I just suddenly remember a better example, which is actually coming from Tantric masters. So I will quote them. Anyway, they say the thoughts are like a water. Water, when you spill, it collects immediately the dust. It's a subjective and objective. Bodhisattva is a bit too big. We don't even know what, they are very, very, you know, like a kindergarten level of the bodhisattvas, which are basically sentient beings. But let's say Buddhas. Now, Buddhas don't have this kind of mind, like a water, like a mind. They have what they call wisdom, prajna, jhana, which is like a mercury. Mercury, when it falls on the ground, it doesn't collect anything. It fits. You can mix a mercury with a dirt for 1,000 years. It stays as a mercury, intact, without being stained. So, but then I guess the next question is, what's the difference between the mind and the wisdom and so on and so forth? I think this really opens a very, very big subject, probably another time. Okay.
There's a second part to the question. Would it be possible to go on? Or?
Yes, for now, we have no choice. We can only begin with a motivation. We can only do with a longing to do it. And I was addressing more to the younger generation, busy people who don't have much time to sit, who don't have wish to sit. For them to have a glimpse of Vipassana, I was suggesting to contemplate, to discuss, to analyze. And I was saying that this can also be considered as a Vipassana practice. But of course, once your Vipassana gets matured, all these subjective, objective, analytical has to go, has to transcend. This is why in the Heart Sutra, Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisattva, you have to go transcend, you have to go beyond. Okay, I think on this note, we will end this time. So, thank you for coming to this, for a lot of you, for this weekend. I hope that the current situation of the world is going to become more, less uncertain. I don't know. Now that we have talked a lot about anicca, it's even kind of silly to even think like that. But meanwhile, please take care of yourself. And since I'm addressing to a lot of our Buddhist Sangha here, and I'm noticing that many of the people who have attended here have been somehow connected to me for a long time. I just want to take this opportunity to say a few words about this recent, unfortunate loss of Chapji Dujam Rinpoche's incarnation. I think this is such a big loss because, he's not only he was very bright and very accomplished for his age. We generally, I think all the Buddha Dharma, all the Buddhist tradition, and especially in the Vajrayana, there is, dire situation of lack of next generation sort of lineage holder. And there was a lot of hope and expectation on him. So his sudden passing was a shock for a lot of people, and it's such a big loss. So while of course we pray and as we offer our aspiration for the continuous and unstoppable compassion and activity of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to manifest and support, manifest and support and guide us continuously. I also like to sort of tell that, you know, obstacles, as much as it can be very discouraging and it can be very disheartening, I think this is also the time to, you know, regroup ourselves, especially those who are connected to this particular tradition and the lineage. Regroup and tell each other and remind each other that now is actually the time to be more brave, courageous, visionary, and develop this attitude of never ever giving up. Of course, when Buddha Dharma when Buddha Dharma prevails, it also obviously will have a lot of obstacles. And when the obstacle comes, we need to actually generate our determination even more so. So generally for everyone, and especially for those who are connected to Dujam lineage, I'd like to take this opportunity, because I'm speaking to a public situation here, to pass this message around, to not to lose our hope and be even more determined and more visionary and think much longer and bigger. Okay.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. And thank you to all our audience and to the great work of our translators. See you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
诸佛正法贤圣僧，直至菩提永皈依。我以所修诸善根，为利众生愿成佛。诸佛正法贤圣僧，直至菩提永皈依。我以所修诸善根，为利众生愿成佛。诸佛正法贤圣僧，直至菩提永皈依。我以所修诸善根，为利众生愿成佛。
南无三门多阿弥陀那，阿婆拉帝诃多舍，娑囊南大智陀，唵切切切悉切悉吽吽。 是力。
Om Swasti， 如曼莲花降魔黑鲁嘎，尊之无始本然智慧心，转轮回根为金刚大乐，调伏诸显赐无始成就，智慧悲心无畏与自在，奥秘宝藏金刚持有者，周遍法界事业尊胜者，愿尊三密无坏恒安住，无垢有语赤松得真王，曾发悲愿将恒常示现，护佑末法众生及法教，无变金刚精髓起常住。愿此虔诚祈愿之善种，乌鸡二地温润而滋长，成熟成为灿烂之果实，言是三界最胜之吉祥。
南无三门多姆托那，哈婆拉帝诃多舍，所能难大智陀。切西吽吽，如啊啦，如啊啦，波拉如啊啦，波拉如啊啦，迪瑟扎瑟智利，娑婆扎山地加势力。
Om Swasti， 如曼莲花降魔黑鲁嘎，尊之无始本然智慧心，转轮回根为金刚大乐，调伏诸显赐无始成就，智慧悲心无畏与自在，奥秘宝藏金刚持有者，周遍法界事业尊胜者，愿尊三密无坏恒安住，无垢有语赤松得真王，曾发悲愿将恒常示现，护佑末法众生及法教，无变金刚精髓起常住。愿此虔诚祈愿之善种，乌鸡二地温润而滋长，成熟成为灿烂之果实，言是三界最胜之吉祥。Om Swasti， 如曼莲花降魔黑鲁嘎，尊之无始本然智慧心，转轮回根为金刚大乐，调伏诸显赐无始成就，智慧悲心无畏与自在，奥秘宝藏金刚持有者，周遍法界事业尊胜者，愿尊三密无坏恒安住，无垢有语赤松得真王，曾发悲愿将恒常示现，护佑末法众生及法教，无变金刚精髓起常住。愿此虔诚祈愿之善种，乌鸡二地温润而滋长，成熟成为灿烂之果实，言是三界最胜之吉祥。